A unit fraction is a fraction whose numerator is 1 and whose denominator is a natural number greater than 1. If three unit fractions with distinct single-digit denominators have a sum of 5/8, what is the sum of the denominators? Okay, so we're looking for something over, 1 over, let's say 1 over a plus 1 over b plus 1 over c is equal to 5/8. Okay? And when we write a fraction in terms of the sum of unit fractions, it's often referred to as Egyptian fractions. Egyptian fractions. And that's because the ancient Egyptians, wrote their fractions as the sum of unit fractions. They would never write 5/8. They would write it as a sum of unit fractions. So in order to understand this problem, I want to give you a little bit of a history lesson about how the Egyptians would divide things up. So let's say that the Egyptians wanted to divide, let's say, 5 pies, we'll take pies, among 8 people. Okay, so we have 5 pies. Okay, now each person would get 5/8 of a pie, and you could divide each pie into 8 pieces and give each person 5 of those pieces, but that's not the way the Egyptians would have done it. They were very practical people, and they would want to give the largest portion possible. They didn't want to cut these things all into little pieces to distribute them. They wanted to make as few cuts as possible, and try to give people the biggest pieces they could. So what they would do, they would probably divide these in half. Okay, so we divide 5 pies in half. We end up with 10 pieces, and we could give 1/2 to each person. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? So each person would get 1/2 of a pie, and then we'd have this one pie left over. And that one we had to divide that by 8 people, so we don't really have much choice but to divide this one into 8s. Okay? So the Egyptians would write 5/8 as 1/2 plus an 1/8. Okay? So, and then you can check that is 5/8. This is 4/8 plus 1/8 is 5/8. Okay? So, and that's the way they would distribute the pies. They would give everybody 1/2 a pie plus an 1/8 instead of giving everybody 5 little pieces. Makes a lot of sense, really. So, and so this is getting close to what we want. What we're looking for is 3 unit fractions that add to 5/8. We also want those unit fractions to have single-digit denominators. Okay, so I need to divide this down a little further, and I think I'm going to choose the 1/2 to divide down further, because 1/8 is already small, and if I try to divide that into smaller pieces, I'm likely to get a denominator that's bigger than a single-digit number. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and divide the 1/2 down further into unit fractions. And I'm going to use the same idea. So I'm going to think about dividing 2 pies, or sorry, not 2 pies, 1 pie between 2 people. Okay, so 1 pie among 2 people. Okay, now the simple thing would just be give 1/2, right? But we don't want to give 1/2. So the next largest fraction would be 1/3, right? So because we want to break down 1/2. All right, we don't want 1/2. We want to break down this into something smaller. So the next smallest is 1/3, and we could give each of those 2 people 1/3. And then we'd have to divide this 1/3 into 2, right? So we'd have to divide this into 2. So they would get a third plus a half of a third, which is a sixth. So a half is equal to 1/3 plus 1/6. Okay, so that's, if we add that together, we'll get a half. Okay, so we can substitute this half here, and so 5/8. So this was 5/8, and we can break a half into a third and a sixth. So 5/8 is equal to 1/3 plus 1/6 plus 1/8. All right. And the problem asks for what is the sum of the denominators. So 3 plus 6 plus 8, that's 17. So that would be our answer, 17.